What the heck are you doing, Paul?
Oh, Brian, I'm checking out my new LED bulb collection. These things are exquisite.
Up next on the Handyguys podcast, LED bulbs.
All right, Brian, on this episode, I want to talk about bulbs, specifically LED bulbs. We've talked in the past a lot about the CFLs, and we're going to mention these again. They deserve some credit, or lack thereof, maybe.
Right. Maybe a little criticism.
And maybe we'll still talk a little bit about this. Do you remember this bulb? This is from an antique, I think.
Right. Edison
Yeah,
had
that's
something
right.
to do with that, right?
This
Right,
is your
Paul?
typical incandescent bulb, which you can still buy up to, you're telling me, only up to 100 watts now?
Right. You can't get the 100-watt bulbs anymore. They're essentially banned.
So we're going to talk about the problem with that. We both saw an interesting video, and we'll
Right.
mention that and maybe put a link on our website. But I want to talk about all these bulbs. Specifically, though, we're going to cover these new LEDs because there's some interesting things I learned about this. If you haven't checked out the LEDs, I did some testing. I'm going to show you some film of my house with these bulbs, and I'll talk to you about the tests we did and our listeners, and I think you're going to be interested in the LEDs. Maybe. We'll talk about the pros and cons, but first let's give out our contact
Sure.
information.
Just go to our website, handyguyspodcast.com. Click on the contact tab if you have any questions for the Handy Guys, criticism, critiques, whatever it is, or follow us on Twitter or on Facebook. So,
All right, so
LED.
Brian.
So you've made the investment.
All right, yeah, I've made the investment on a few.
I was going to do it. I just couldn't
Yeah.
spring for it.
Well, we'll talk about why I did it, and we'll talk about when you might want to buy an LED. But first, let's go through the kinds of bulbs. We have the incandescent, which has been around forever. It's
Right.
Edison. Really not much has changed. Now, what's interesting about these, and what we learned, or we already knew it, but what was reinforced in this video we saw recently on YouTube, is that these bulbs, which are being banned, yes, they use more energy, but you look at a bulb like this and the complexity of something like, let's move this stuff out of the way here for this camera B. You see these bulbs and you see the complexity of an LED bulb with all of this, this heat sink,
heat sinks and circuitry,
and
electronics.
diffusers they have to have, and then you look at an Edison bulb, there's not much to it. It's basically glass and a wire.
Right.
runs through it. I mean, that's it. So simple. So the type of manufacturing, energy used, the complexity of this bulb.
Yes.
Compared to this, there's got to be, this is not a apples to apples comparison when you talk about energy. Yes, this will burn less energy when it's in action, but look at the cost
How
to
much
manufacture.
energy does it take to make it?
Yeah.
And to ship it? It weighs probably 10 times as
exactly.
much. So a truckload of these is going to use twice as much gas as a truckload of these.
At least. And shipping,
Right.
yeah. So there's a lot of additional costs, which, of course, in the end, I paid a lot more for.
And the packaging, too, is more expensive,
That's a good point. I mean, they said, on pallets and things, you can only get so many of those. And then you talk about CFLs. One of the point of this video made is, again, the CFLs have a lot more complicated circuitry in them because they have a built-in, ballast or whatever. Mm-hmm. And they have mercury, of course, which we talked about previously. And they said, we're over here in the U.S., trying to be safer for the environment. And the Chinese that are making these are dying, or I don't know if they're dying, but are being poisoned with mercury. And that's been proven. They've tested the workers, and they all have mercury. So, I'm not so sure. We talked about this in the past, and I said I have real concerns about this. People are going to throw them, and they're going to end up in landfills. And I don't think this is the answer.
I think this is probably a stopgap measure between an incandescent and an LED.
We'll see.
Would you agree?
But I think I would have agreed a few years ago, but I will say, after watching this video, incandescents are cheap to make. They are simple. They're easy, and
they're reliable.
They're reliable. They do burn out sooner than some other bulbs, but when you turn them on, they come on.
Right.
These incandescents, and I have this, and I have a whole box. I'm sorry, not incandescents, but the CFLs.
Right.
These things, even the ones that are more instant on, over time they are less instant on. So these are CFLs that are for my recessed lights. And it's basically...
It's that bulb inside of another bulb. Right?
Yeah, so it's a bulb and a bulb. Again, the complexity here. The old-fashioned traditional bulbs were so simple now they have all this, it's 2 bulbs in one, and it takes 5 minutes to get to
the proper brightness.
You know, at first it does a little better, but even then it gets to 50% right away, then it slowly, then over time their performance goes down. And the point of the one video that we saw is he said, you know, over time they go down and they never last. This one is burned out. They never last as long as they, even close to what they say.
And what it is the frequent on-off cycles of the bulb. If you just turned it on and left it on, it's going to last the
long time.
The 2,000 hours or 8,000 hours on that one, right? It's going to get close to that.
Yeah.
But if you turn it on and off every day, it's going to cut that in half. If you turn it on and off more than once a day, it's going to cut that down to 25%.
And not only that is you're not getting the light that you need. So if you have it in a closet where you're in and out in 30 seconds or a minute every day,
you never get the full brightness.
You can't see, and the bulb isn't going to last as long.
That's right.
So don't use CFLs, in my opinion, in those hallways that you're in and out, bathrooms, you're in and out fast. Use incandescent at this point. I think that's the answer still.
Yeah.
However, I do think there's a place for LEDs, and I want to talk about it because they are crazy expensive.
You're telling me, Paul. I said, okay, that'd be great to put in the basement. The kids leave the lights on in the basement or something like that. It'd be nice to have something that didn't cost an arm and a leg to operate. And so I'm thinking, all right, LEDs, how many do I need? I need 20 of them.
Yeah, so
and
you could spend 40 $40 a piece.
35 to 45 a piece times 20 bulbs. Is more than I want to shell out.
Don't stop watching this show now, because if you think that's all you need to hear about LEDs, I'm going to give you some reasons why you might want to shell out that, not exclusively throughout the household, but in certain situations.
Okay.
So let's talk about it. First of all, LEDs have some advantages. All light bulbs come in what we call a color temperatures. They have, you have different colors. You have your incandescent, which are traditionally around 2,700 Kelvin.
Right.
Daylight bulbs, which are used usually in studios like we're in now.
Right, like something like
you
this.
You can't see it, it's off camera, but they match daylight, cloudy day brightness, which are around 5,000 Kelvin. We're used to 27 for indoor light. You have those bright white bulbs you see. Sometimes they call them extra. They're not really daylight. They're somewhere in between. They're around 3,000 Kelvin. They're a little bit whiter. Most people are comfortable somewhere in that 2,700 to 300 range.
Right. When you turn on your lights with the traditional incandescent, it's a yellowish, warm light.
It's warm,
but that's what we're used to, and that's what feels nice.
Don't buy a CFL. Where's that CFL? I think it came in this, or it's a bigger one. This is for a can light, but this is an R30 for can lights, R40. This was, and they come in this blue packaging. This is not what you want unless you're going to do it with every bulb in the house. So that is very white daylight, and it looks blue if you're not used to it. It looks awful.
Hence the blue packaging, maybe? I don't know.
Exactly. So that works, but it doesn't unless every bulb is the same. So what you want to get is something closer to 2,700. A lot of people complain about the early CFLs is they didn't match their incandescent lighting.
Right.
So they were a little bit whiter. Well, when you look for your bulbs, you're going to want to look for, what is it pointed out there, Brian, on the side where it says 2,700. It's up here somewhere.
Right, 2,700K.
Yeah. So that's the color temperature, and a lot of times it's not, as we discovered on these other boxes. On this box, it has it right on the back down here. It shows you the color temperature, and that's what you want to look for. You want to look for a bulb that's around 2,700 Kelvin. These LEDs are 2,700, and I placed one of these LEDs in my basement that has a whole bunch of recessed can lights, and I'm going to show them in this video.
Okay.
But I had you try to find it, and it was a bulb kind of like this.
And I couldn't find it.
Yeah, it came with its own little diffuser, like it came with its own recessed kit. They're kind of expensive. But I was curious to see if it would match in. My first test, color temperature, passed perfectly. It matched my incandescents perfectly. I actually have some CFLs in there as well, but you could not tell, and that was good. The other thing that I love about these bulbs, Brian, is I can put them on a dimmer circuit.
That's key, Paul.
Yeah, so
absolutely
they are dimmable, and they say they work with most dimmers. So there might be some dimmer
So you don't need a fancy dimmer, right? Because some of the CFLs required a special dimmer circuit to go with them, if they were even dimmable.
So they work with dimmers. The other thing is, we said they match temperature. but they also stay the same temperature throughout the dimmer. So when you
Yes.
take an incandescent bulb, old-fashioned bulb, if you look carefully, if you have a dimmer circuit, when they're down real low, they're really warm and yellow. When you turn them up brighter, they get change their temperature as well as brightness. When you have an LED, it keeps the same exact color temperature no matter what.
Right.
And it's not a big deal, but it's kind of neat when you see it. You realize, oh, I like that. I like that. It keeps the same color all the way through its brightness. So, and I would say the dimming feature on them works very well. I've seen dimmers that work with CFLs in the past, and they're really like 3 levels of brightness, whereas these LEDs, they really work. And finally, and probably most importantly, is, well, I have 2 other features, but the big one is they are instant on, man. These things, full brightness.
That is another key feature. In my closet, I have, you know, one of these, right, or a couple of these up in the fixture and ceiling. And you turn it on, and it's like, are the lights on in here?
Right.
You know, so you gotta turn it on, and then you go in the bathroom, you brush your teeth and whatever. Now the light's on in the closet. What a pain in the neck.
So let's talk about some other one other feature, and that is that many of them will come with a built-in diffuser, or
this looks a little bit.
This one has a diffuser.
Right.
That's not really
something
diffuser.
out of Star Trek or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah, some people won't like the
High-tech.
look of this because they see all these small bulbs. But let me talk about the difference between these. And these are both Philips bulbs. One of them is very bright. It's equivalent, I think, to about 125 watts. It's 19.5 watts of LED. And this thing is wicked bright. Am I allowed to say that?
125 watt equivalent.
Equivalent, yeah.
And it draws 19 watts
19 and a half watts. It's 1,100 lumens. This other one, I think, is about a 75 watt equivalent. It really uses 14 and a half, and it's 800 lumens. And it has a diffuser. Some of them, when you buy them with recessed can lights, the one, this Echo Smart, for instance, I don't have it here, it's installed, but it comes with its own kit for the finish ring and everything for the fixture. It has a diffuser that comes with it. That's the one you couldn't figure out, which was one, has its own diffuser. So when you get recessed, a lot of times you'll either get a bulb like this with a diffuser, or you'll buy one that has its own trim kit with a diffuser.
These are for recess.
Expensive.
Right?
These are going to be a little bit more expensive
Now,
for recess.
Can you
you can get something like this. It doesn't have its own diffuser. However, this thing says that it's a floodlight. It's really a spotlight. Because it doesn't have its own diffuser, you'll find, even if the ceilings are 9 foot, you'll see a spot on the ground. This thing is so bright, but it's also not diffused that well. So what I did is I tested it in my basement. I'm like, it's kind of nice, but it's not diffused very much.
So it's only lighting up one particular area
a little bit, but
instead of a whole big wide area.
So I moved it to my kitchen. And we don't have under cabinet lighting or anything.
Right.
So I moved it up there, and for task lighting, it's awesome because it takes that corner of the kitchen I put it in and lights it nice and bright.
Okay.
So that's one advantage. The other, well, one of many advantages. The other one is that the reason I used it in the kitchen and I shelled out big bucks, this is what, 42 bucks or so we figured out,
right,
is because, and I'm using both of these in the kitchen actually, I was having problems. It's a dimmer circuit.
Right.
It's recessed lights. And it's underneath the kids' bedroom, 2 kids' bedrooms, my kitchen.
Ah, yeah.
And all the vibration and everything was causing my incandescents to burn out all the time, like every month. And I have 10-foot ceilings, I think they are. They're 9-foot ceilings, whatever. So it's not easy to just reach up and change a bulb. You gotta get a ladder or something. And so what I've done is I've put these LEDs in, and we're gonna hope. What do they say they last like some ridiculous amount of time, 22 and a half years or whatever.
Right.
35,000 hours or something like that.
This one says 23 years estimated life.
So now I don't know if that's just marketing. I'll assume it is, but let's say it lasted 10 years. Would you be happy with that? You know, I would be happy. But you know, that's been my problem, Brian. These CFLs, these things, this is burned out. These things are crap. They don't last. That's the other big problem. You know, we mentioned
the color temperature's horrible. They got mercury in them. They don't last. They're not as bright when you first turn them on.
They're junk. I'm done. I'm not buying any more CFLs. I'm either going to go back to incandescent or I don't know. Because the other thing is I've noticed that LEDs are mainly, the ones they're selling are for recess. They do have some that are for regular lamps.
I was going to ask, can you get something that's shaped like a normal bulb that you put in a lamp next to your couch?
They do. I didn't buy it because they only have about 40 watt equivalents for some reason, not anything brighter. So I thought, and they're less expensive, but they're still a lot more than these. So I've not done that yet. I'm sure they're coming. But, you know, I still think, Brian, you know, you look at this thing, this especially, the complicated technology. This thing weighs. Yeah, there's something not right about that.
Right.
When you could just go back, and bowl a bulb yourself.
It
right?
weighs like a pound, versus 3
I know.
ounces.
Say the last 10, 20 years, I'm good with it. But that's the deal with the LEDs. If you have a different experience, we'd be encouraged to hear about it.
Well, here's the other thing I've heard and I've read, is the typical Edison incandescent bulb
Yes.
is planned obsolescence. There's technology out there to make a 20-year light bulb.
Right.
And they were selling them for like $20 a pop.
You know the big light fixture I have in my foyer that you helped me install? It's hanging, it's heavy.
Yes.
It has, I think, 9 bulbs or something like that.
Okay.
We got it when we moved into the house in 2005.
Okay.
The bulbs came from the place, it was a high-end lighting store.
Yes.
And they came from that place. They were some weird brand you never heard of, and they were supposed to be high-end incandescent bulbs.
Yeah.
Only one has burned out, and I've had that thing for 7 years. Well,
and it's
8
always
years.
on.
It's all well. I don't like. It's not always on because.
Well, whenever you have company, it's
because
on.
it has so many bulbs. I have another light that, but still, it's been on and off a lot. That's 8 years, and I've had one bulb burn out. So you're right. They can make incandescent bulbs that last a lot longer.
Yes, they can.
So anyway, there you have it. There's the LEDs. They're not just for the rich. Well, actually, they are just for the rich.
They are for the rich. I can't afford them, Paul. So, you and your wife make that budget decision, and you're good to go.
Well, if they last 20 years, it might be worth it. But the problem is, I don't trust any of them because of what they've done to us with these things. So we'll see.
All right. Yes, we will see.
That's it for the Handy Guys podcast. Thanks for watching.
Thanks.